making YouTube videos. That sounds sick.
What's up, everybody? Vampire here. It's the first collaboration video. Say hi, Brian.
Hi, Brian.
Wife's also here.
Wife's also here, best friends in the background. So, we told you guys that we were going to be doing collaboration videos. This is the start of it. So, I'll get you guys linked to his channel, probably like 9 different links, like around all over here. So he's going to be in the background. A lot of you guys have recommended doing more on the Dark Deck profile, and I agreed. So we're going to do that. Brian's probably going to be doing the Ansem version, because I've had a lot of requests for that, and I completely refuse to do Ansem. I hate Ansem. I hate that card so much. I think there's a lot more opportunities to be done with Dark Riku. So basically what we're going to be doing is I'm going to be going over some choices, and Brian and I are basically going to be critiquing them. So that's what we're going to be doing for a while on certain videos. So let's go ahead and get into it. Dark Riku. What do you think of Dark Riku?
He looks better in foil.
This is foil. See, your webcam is bad. It's foil.
I would show my non-foil version that I run in my deck, but I'm not linked to the actual video, so I'll save myself the stupidity of doing that.
That'd be awesome.
It's a really interesting card, but a lot of people that I used to know that played when the game was still alive, they thought it was a neat idea, but the rulings on it were really inconsistent. Like the people that developed the game, FFG, they didn't have a real solid understanding of how certain in-play effects, did they actually affect both players? Could they only be run when you're playing, you know, in a non-dark deck? There wasn't a whole lot of long-term thought put into it, so that's why it's so confusing.
No, and I completely agree. There was a lot of the game itself was fairly balanced towards the middle of the game and end, because how it worked is, and you and I were having this conversation the other day, is that they basically started the game with, how you put it, they started it as basically aggro-based with a ton of attack cards, only very few world cards, and then from there they didn't focus on both things. They only focused on the first couple of sets as, they basically split it between World Racer and aggro between the first couple of sets. Instead of doing what they should have done and balancing it and basically focus on both really well.
Well, that's the funny thing, is at major tournaments for sets 1 and 2, it basically just turned out aggro was more effective. Like, you just didn't have the tools to world race fast enough. Sets 3 and 4, it's sort of started to shift back, although you did see a lot of what they call jack of all trades decks, where you try to do both, which I know Vamp here loves to do.
That's changing soon.
Yeah, well, and I was always advised to never do that. So it's been interesting, because you beat the crap out of me at least 5 times doing exactly what I was told not to do. So
it worked for me, and that's one of the things, is it comes down to player preference and play style, and that's what I've come to do in a lot of card games. Is I like to toolbox a lot of things to where I can basically do more than one thing and more than one focus, and it's always worked for me. Now, that being said, it doesn't work for a lot of players. It just, certain few it works for really well.
Right, and plus it helps when you play against someone like me who thinks they know everything and has really poor execution. Then it ends up nicely.
So, one of the reasons I really like Dark Riku over Ansem is the fact that I can play these. Is the fact that I can play my Soul Eaters, whereas Ansem, you cannot play any attack cards or equipment cards in any way, where this even two boost, and that's one of this deck's nice things, is you can world race and or rush down with the Soul Eaters, because you're already starting at an 8 attack value. I mean, that's awesome.
Well, the other thing too that's great about Dark Riku is you can completely confuse the crap out of your opponent, so they're not even sure what's supposed to be happening, and while they're trying to figure that out, you can kill them. So
right. So that's my reasoning for doing this over Ansem. Is Ansem's got what is Ansem, a starting 9? He's a 9/3 with like an 8 HP, 9 HP, something like that.
Yeah, but his level is also level 10, and go ahead and tell him, Vamp, why you love playing against Ansem.
Right, I play Kingdom Key in most decks if I can help it, if I still had enough copies, but I personally love Kingdom Key, because Kingdom Key states that when you win a challenge against your opponent, you subtract your level from your opponent's level and then deal that much damage to your opponent. So the reason I play it in the Agrabah deck is because just the fact that my player card's a level 2, then if my opponent makes the mistake of challenging me with an Ansem, I go up +3 on the attack value, then 1 more for the Kingdom Key, and if I beat them that challenge, they not only lose the 1 health from the challenge, but then lose another 8 health from the Kingdom Key's effect because I'm playing against a dark player card. So you would essentially deal all 9 health damage to the Ansem you can do it turn 1 legitimately, like easily.
Well, the one thing I would like to point out there is that while all of that is true, you still have to beat him on power. So
right. If you challenge your opponent, oh, sorry, he gets a +5. You start at a 4 attack value with the flag Sora, and then you get a +5 on the boost if your opponent challenges you. But if you challenge your opponent with the Kingdom Key, you're only starting at a 5. So you better turn 1 have a really good start.
Sure.
But yeah, that's
point that out that it's possible that it can be tricky.
Right. But yeah, that's one reason I am not a big fan of Ansem is because every tournament that I went to, at least one of the rounds was won because somebody was playing Ansem and the other person had the Kingdom Key on their character, and they basically just kind of rushed the Ansem down within turn 1 or turn 2, and that was how that round went for them.
Sure. And I mean, the other thing too, and then we can move on from Ansem after this, is just simply, come on, dude, you got better hair than both of us, so that's why we hate him.
Right. So, no, Ansem overall, he's a really good player card. He just, when they created Kingdom Key became Ansem's downfall.
Yep. And that, again, like you mentioned earlier, that was one of those control measures from FFG when they decided, oh, we need to balance this because Ansem did provide a lot of early firepower, and they shut it down in the very next set, basically by reducing it. I went to one tournament. I only was able, sadly, to get to one tournament during the Light and Darkness format where I got lucky and beat the opponent that was using Ansem just for the fact that it came down to him and I only having 1 health each, and I top decked the Ultima weapon. Top deck.
Yeah, I top decked the Ultima weapon off my 6th card, and I only was drawing 3 cards for that turn. I drew into that as the 6th card, so I only won the finals of that tournament because of the Ultima weapon draw. Otherwise, I would have lost that round because he had so much support sitting there, it was ridiculous. And I had Sephiroth sitting in the friend area, so a +22 is nothing to laugh at.
Yeah. Well, hey, speaking of support, why don't you walk us through what you're running in this Dark Riku deck, and then we can talk about it a little bit.
So the big cards, and this is why I like them. So Soul Eater is one of the big supports. Then we've got the 1 event card. I've been playing this in this deck for a good while, and then Brian recently turned me on to this card for my main deck, and once I get the card from him and some of the cards in the mail from the other guys that I'm working with right now, that I've got 1 trade going on with, I will be showcasing the Riku deck, and it's no longer a jack of all trades in any way, and this is one thing Brian changed me from, is showing me that this deck, once I've got the cards, should not be jack of all trades in any way. It purely becomes aggro. Hardcore aggro.
We'll try it out a couple times, see how it goes. Again, it may turn out you like the jack of all trades playstyle, because like you said, you gotta play where you're comfortable.
Right. I've always been comfortable with both, but more often than not, toolbox. So, it works for me. You have to, in any dark deck, you have to play the fungus. This card made that deck so much more playable when it came out of Light and Darkness. It almost, I feel like, is what really got that deck off the ground. I know that I'm saying that, and yet this and Ansem came out of that same set, but if they had not printed Black Fungus, I don't feel like that deck would have done as well as it did.
Agreed.
just for the fact they're really good, easy level 1s. I really like the 3 Bouncy Wild, because you can not only have more than one of these in play at a time, but if you draw these, you get free cards to go through deck. And you really need to... Yeah, you really need to deck thin in this deck to get to everything. I play 4 Shadow because I can play 4 Shadow. I basically could play this entire deck with nothing but Shadows, if I really wanted to. But I just feel like they're a good plus.
Yeah, they're good. Personally, I probably would only run 3 just to kind of keep things slim. Although I'm also the guy that tried to build a broom deck, so...
No, in all honesty, that is one deck I never got to play and I really wanted to play was Brooms, because it looked really stupid fun.
Yeah, you know how you watch videos of people doing stupid things on YouTube that you would never do yourself?
Yeah.
Yeah, stick with that feeling.
Right. If I did anything just to lower the count, I probably would agree with him and drop 1 Shadow. Then, if I did anything, I'd probably drop the Shadow for a 3rd Creeper Plant. Because with it being Jack of all trades, one of the things is you have to World Race. And the biggest World Race problem with this deck is you have no Magic Friends, no friends that have the ability to bounce Heartless or do anything like that except Creeper Plant.
And I've got to give you a lot of credit, man. You turned me on to that card. I mean, I'd read about it on the forums. I'd always tried to find other ways to get around Stealth Sneak, but that was a stroke of genius that I can't believe I didn't spot on my own. But yeah, that's a great pickup.
Yeah, it's the biggest the biggest problem with a dark deck, no matter whether you're running the Ansem version, whether you're running the Dark Riku version, you can't World Race if your opponent hits a Stealth Sneak on you and you don't play Creeper Plant. At that point, your worlds are shut down completely.
The other thing I would like to point out too is if you're ever in a pinch and you're going up against a Heartless that's, blocking you and you're 1 damage short, you can even use that thing to fire it off and do 1 damage.
Oh yeah, easily, because you're still during your action phase at that point.
Exactly.
So you deal the damage, you go into battle, deal all your damage, and then you just, after that, play the Creeper Plant on your opponent's world, ditch it off your opponent's world, and just go.
Yeah, and again, that's not ideal, but it's not to be overlooked.
Right. And then, along with the Black Mushroom, these coming out of Break of Dawn made that deck even faster. That's why I don't play any level 3s, is the Bit Snipers from Break of Dawn. They're amazing. They're so good. 1, you're lowering your hand size, meaning every turn you're going to be drawing more cards. 2, you level manipulate so hard off this card.
Yeah, I mean, if there were the ability to run more than 3, this is the one card I would say you definitely would overload on.
Oh my god, if this had the same ability as Shadow, where you could run more than 3 of this card, I'd probably play 6 or 7 of this thing easily.
There you go.
I mean, it's so much. This is one card Brian turned me on to because it's really fun overall late game. I sit on this because of you. I was playing against a guy one day online, and sadly I didn't hit record on the Skype call, but I played this late game and he had 12 levels of world and he had already exhausted all of his attack cards and he didn't play Chippendale.
Yeah.
So this thing was like I think it goes up, what is it, 1 per? Yeah. So it was a 24 POW and he couldn't get around it. So it sat there on his world.
So the 2 things I love about that card, the first is obviously what you just pointed out, late game it's amazing. But what people don't think about is if you play that early, if they're not set up, or, if let's say that you're playing an aggro deck and you somehow are able to drop that on their world, I don't know how that would work, but let's just say for some stupid reason it did happen, that card prevents people from playing the king. So really, anytime you drop it, if you know your opponent's running that card, you basically stonewalled them and forced them to spend resources to get rid of him.
In all honesty, I always keep forgetting that he has that second ability.
Yeah, just like the thing we talked about with Creeper Plant, don't sleep on that with Pete, because the king is a card everybody should run. Not everybody has them, but if you
right.
That's a huge problem, not being able to pull any one card you need.
Right. I always forget that he has that second ability to make it where your opponent cannot play the king. I always forget about that one. I'm not gonna lie to you. I always constantly forget that that's an ability on him. So yeah, like he was saying, the fact of the matter, you can shut down a king. Like, if you can get this onto your friend area, which turn 1, you should be able to get this onto your friend area. If you open Pete plus Black Fungus, you've got that on your table turn 1, easy, or any level 1.
There's nothing they can do to get rid of him directly, I don't think. I mean, there's a couple scenarios where they could, but it's a lot harder.
I mean, they have to be playing Kyrie or something like that to get him out of your friend area.
Right, or what's the other one that you like? Is Graviara or Graviaga?
Gravity.
Gravity.
Gravity said, well, well, no, it would just be Gravity. Gravity says both players have to discard a friend card from their friend area.
Yeah, so even then they'd have to catch you in a tough spot.
Right, like if I had let's say a Shadow and Pete, I'm gonna get rid of the Shadow and keep Pete in play.
Yeah, keep them locked.
Right. So if my opponent's sitting on a Gravity with a King in hand because they have to play King to keep going, of course I'm gonna get rid of the Shadow. Then I just kind of play the 1 tech copy of Lock, just for the fact of late game Oogie Boogie can be really hardcore, because when you play Lock, just when he gets put on your opponent's world, you ignore the world level, but as long as you're adhering to the world count, you can ignore the world level and just shove out an Oogie Boogie onto your opponent's world, not care. So at that point, they're having to deal with 28 on health to get to start to world race more.
Yeah, that's a crazy combo that I hadn't thought of. That's a good one.
If I did anything, I'd probably play 1 more Lock and 1 more Oogie Boogie, and especially the fact that this Oogie Boogie is the one that says neither player can play Jack Skellington. Even though Jack Skellington helps this deck a lot, because it helps you level manipulate even more, I feel like shutting down one of your opponent's Jack Skellington late game is so clutch.
Yep.
And that's, again, the reason I don't play any level 3s is the fact of Bit Sniper. I play no level 3s because he becomes your level 3s. 2 Search Ghost comes into play. Search your deck for any dark villain and add it to your hand, which one of your dark villains is Pete. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 dark villains is how many we play in this deck. 9 because of Pete. So any one of them you search out. Do what?
Options are good.
Oh yeah. So he's a really good card. I love that card. Aqua Tank. When this card comes into play, put a Dark Heartless card onto your opponent's world. I think it even ignores it.
Yeah,
if it allows more dark cards to be played on it, you get to play one on it. So
that explains why that guy was such a pain in the ass in the video games, because they made him a pain in the ass in the card game too.
Right. So, and the nice thing about this is there's a lot of cards that say this is not counted as a play. This is counted as a play. So if you play a card like this off of Aqua Tank, Search Ghost, you get to search the Dark Villain off of the Search Ghost when you play it off of Aqua Tank. Same thing goes for Bouncy Wild. If you play Bouncy Wild off the Aqua Tank, you get to draw a card. And this is one of the things I did to the guy online the other day as well. I Aqua Tanked and put an Air Pirate on and got rid of one of his equipments.
Nice.
So not only Air Pirate says when it comes into play, you discard an equipment card in play. So that's really good against stuff like Roxas and the Valor Form Sora, where Valor Form Sora is stupid.
Well, especially with this tech, though, because you're relying on the Soul Eaters to accelerate the amount of damage that you do.
Right.
It's really nice to be able to take something that's supposed to be permanent away from your opponent right before you go ahead and challenge him.
Right. And that's, like I said, I was playing against him and just dropped the Aqua Tank, played the Air Pirate, and got rid of one of his equipments, and it made me so happy.
There you go.
And then the last level 5 is Phantom. The reason I play Phantom is you have so many exhaustible resources. Like, you're not going to always use a Bouncy Wild because technically they're only a 2 on POW support value. So late game, when you drop the Phantom, you're getting rid of all these exhaustible resources like Bouncy Wild and Shadow, where you don't care if they go away.
Yep.
So I really like the Phantom in this deck. It's so much fun. It basically becomes your Alice, like, in all honesty.
It is, but the one thing about this deck you have to be careful with, you have so many of your dark guys are higher levels that you want to be careful that you don't wipe out all of your smaller mid-tier guys, because if you do, you can find yourself in a spot where you're a level short from where you need to be to play the next one. So that's one reason that this deck was difficult for people to play. It had a ton of options, but if you find yourself with the wrong levels on the field at the wrong time, you can really get stonewalled.
Yeah, and that was like I was saying in the video, where there's a lot of decks in all card games that you basically consider them autopilot decks, where you pick the deck up, you draw a hand of cards, and it basically plays itself as long as you know what the cards do.
So, did I ever show you the totally broken Wishing Lamp deck?
Yeah, back before they errated the crap out of it.
Yeah, to break that, oh my god, talk about autopilot. Turns would last 15 minutes.
Yeah, that, and same thing with like Hercules, like when you just crapped out a Pegasus.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
This deck, and that's what he's talking about, it's a very, very technical based deck. It's not one of those decks that you look at and go, oh, I can play this deck. Just in general, I can pick it up and just play some cards. You have to think into every play, because when you're playing things like Bit Snipers and Black Fungus, you have to make sure you've already done all of your math to be able to play what you're going to play.
Yep, this really is the thinking person's deck for this game, and that's why people thought it was cool to have the new mechanic of playing Heartless, and then they realized very quickly that if you don't play it like a chess game, you get hosed.
Yeah. I love the deck, but there are some days where I don't want to play it just for the fact it makes my head hurt when I play it. Love the deck. It's so much fun to play, but good God, the amount of math you have to do to make sure you're playing everything right. This is one of the cards I love as a tech one of, is Crescendo. I love me some Crescendo. When he comes into play, onto your opponent's world, you reveal the top 2 cards of your deck, and then you reveal them. So, if any cards there were revealed are dark cards, you add them to your hand. If anything else is not dark cards, you discard it. I don't know how many times this card has gotten me closer to getting more of my Black Fungus, or even more of my Bit Snipers, and help me dig for them.
See, that's another really nice, like the Bouncy Wild, or even like the, I think, what is it called here? I think it's like Angel Star, which is a level 4.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, wow, look at that, I got the name right. Yeah, but anything that gives you a card advantage in this deck is really helpful, because you can't play things like Bambi, because you're not allowed to play Magic Friend cards. In fact, are you allowed to play Magic cards?
Yeah, you can play Magic cards.
Yeah, you can play Magic cards, but you can't play Magic
Yeah, with Riku, you just cannot play Friend cards and or Magic Friend cards. Everything else is legit.
Yeah, but yeah, so anything that gives you, let's say, gained HP through World Racing, or something like this that allows you to draw additional cards into your hand, obviously the odds are good of getting a dark card. That's invaluable for something like this, because you don't have too many options for those tricks. Right.
So that's why I love Crescendo. Then Cave of Wonders Guardian, he's one of those cards that is really stupid. I actually almost questioned why they printed this card when I first read it when he came out. Because he is the quintessential Q to all world racing at that time.
Yeah, I mean, like I told you when I first met you, I think that's my favorite dark card in the entire game, because it just screws with everything. It combos so well. But obviously when you play it on your opponent, it doesn't really do a whole lot for you on your own bench.
Right, and that's one of the things about this card is you can play it on your bench, because at that point he's an 8, which is really not a bad support. I mean, that's one away from a Sephiroth or a Cloud. So it's really not a bad card. But you hold this until your opponent hits that 6th level of world, and you just go.
Yep. You go.
They don't. Because all damage has to be directed towards Cave of Wonders Guardian. Now, that doesn't, and this is something that Brian showed me more of, because I didn't think that it worked that way, and it does, because he found it. All damage has to be done to this card first. That does not mean, as long as you get all the damage done to this, then if your opponent, if you have more Heartless on your world, the excess damage goes to them. No. Every bit of damage. You can pump out 75 damage to Heartless on your world. Every bit of that 75 has to go to this. Now once that's beaten, basically your battle phase ends.
Yeah, because cards don't get discarded or defeated until the end of that phase. So the fact that it's worded the way that it is, that's one of the things that caused a lot of turmoil with the rulings for FFG when that card came out. Everybody thought exactly what Vampire thought, which was, okay, you put whatever it is, like 17 on there and it dies, and then you move on to the next one. No, that's not how it works, because it doesn't really die until the end of the phase.
Right. So this card is so stupid. And then, just the fact of the matter, I play one Cerberus. The fact of the matter that you are a Heartless deck. Okay, we're gonna stop it here real quick and then go to a part 2. I'm already at 25 minutes. For some reason, my camera doesn't like to do any more than 26 minutes, so let's go to part 2. Be back in a second.